Got about 30 seconds.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the stream. TGIF Friday, June 27th, 2025. Zommer's back on the board. Dan Schaefer coming in hot with breaking news from the state capitol. All that and more. Stay tuned.
From the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our producer and engineer, back from vacation day, Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock on this TGIF Friday, the 27th of June, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite. Welcome, everybody, here at the world headquarters, downtown Madison on State Street. Clouds in the sky, get to weather in a bit. We have Rapine in from EPOM's World with the wild and wacky human behavior in hour 2 and what's worse. But right now, breaking news, want to get to it, lots of it today. On the federal level, the U.S. Supreme Court has made a decision on birthright citizenship and the powers of the presidency. Closer to home, the Wisconsin State Supreme Court with another ruling this morning, this time infecting the Madison area, UW Health, and its right to collectively bargain with nurses. Matt Flynn, attorney and former Democratic chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, will be in a minute to help us through all of that. Also, just over the wires, Canada, Trump ending trade talks with our neighbors. We'll discuss that. But right now, hot news coming out of our very own state capitol, a block away. Nobody better, nobody to discuss it. Nobody's on this more than our very own political editor here at Civic Media. Also, the founder of the Recombobulation Area, Dan Schaefer, who joins us live from our studios at WRJN in Racine. Dan Schaefer, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Todd Allbaugh. Always wonderful to join you here on the Todd Allbaugh Show. And yeah, we've got a little bit of news to share today.
It's a Friday, and most of the time people think, well, I could just chill out. But here we have all this breaking news. We need someone to help us recombobulate, Dan Schaefer. Nobody better to do it. Lots of eyes on the state capitol. We've been talking all week on this program. The Joint Finance Committee, the Budget Writing Committee, was supposed to meet yesterday. They punted on that. They were supposed to meet at 10 o'clock this morning. They punted on that. They're saying they're going to be getting underway here at 2. Our very own news director, Charlie Pittman, is in the Capitol keeping an eye on it. But Dan Schaefer, what have you learned?
Well, I have learned that throughout, as this process is continuing, we're getting up against the budget deadline. I guess Republicans in the Joint Finance Committee are going to write this budget and pass something maybe today in these meetings. But what I have learned from a Democratic source is that Republicans in the state Senate might not be able to pass the budget with just Republican votes. And because of that, they have brought Democratic Minority Leader Dianne Hasselbein into negotiations on the state budget. So Dianne Hasselbein, as of yesterday, was joining the table as far as talking through the state budget. It's going to be interesting to see what that might lead to, if that changes the scope and nature of the budget in any capacity. But because of the smaller margins in the Wisconsin State Senate, the smaller majorities that Republicans have in the state Senate, they can only lose one vote if they want to pass the budget with Republican-only votes. And it looks like they do not have at least 2 of the 18 state Senate Republican state senators. So Minority Leader Dianne Hasselbein has been welcomed into the negotiations here because they might need Democratic votes to pass the budget.
As legendary CBS newsman Bob Schaefer, I don't think any relation, is fond of saying, Dan Schaefer, I think you just made a little bit of news.
A little bit of news, yeah. So I think that, we've heard throughout this process that Republican State Senator Steve Nass has been opposed to this budget and is probably not going to vote for it. Chris Kapenga, another Republican state senator, has expressed some frustration with the budget, said he might not vote for it. So if they lose those two votes, they might need Democratic votes to be able to pass a budget. And that could mean a whole lot of changes on a whole lot of different things. Everything is still very much in flux. But, we've been hearing for weeks that, Tony Evers has been negotiating with Robin Vos, with Devin LeMahieu, the Republican leadership in the Wisconsin state legislature. It's my understanding now that Dianne Hasselbein is now part of those negotiations as well.
This is big news, Dan Schaefer. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing it with our audience and Civic Media wide. I have not seen this reported anywhere else, so I'm going to call it exclusive breaking news here. This is big because you understand this. Help us walk through it as someone who used to work in the Capitol. I get it, but explain a little bit of the importance here of what this is kind of signaling, the fact that when you're in the majority, and not just a one-vote majority, to reach across the aisle and get the opposition party involved, this is not a small deal.
Not a small deal. And I do think it not only does it signify that Republicans, especially in the state Senate, are not all on the same page when it comes to this budget. I think it also signifies that there's going to have to be some sort of compromise for this to pass. And I think we knew that was the case, just the nature of divided government, right? We have a Democratic governor. We have a Republican-controlled legislature. In order to get a budget that they are going to pass, there has to be some compromises. And we've seen, kind of over the course of the last few weeks, but talks have broken down. They've come back together. And now I think the reality of what's going on in the state Senate is setting in here. And that means that they actually, for the first time in, more than 15 years, Republicans might need Democratic votes to pass a budget. And I think that could change the nature of this budget a great deal. Now, the other end of this is that it's, not a zero possibility either, is they go the other direction and try to make steeper cuts to win over some of those Republican state Senate holdouts. So I think it could go either direction, but I think the fact that Hasselbein has been brought to the table to discuss this is significant and, suggests that things are headed in a direction where there might be a little bit more of a bipartisan compromise.
Before we let you go, Dan Schaefer, I know this gets confusing to the average listener out there that's not wonky and nerdish on this stuff like you and I are. There's a lot of talk about budget deadlines, self-imposed kind of at the federal level right now by Donald Trump on the federal budget for July 4th. Explain the difference in Wisconsin and what that means if they don't hit it.
Yeah, if they don't hit that budget, the deadline is Monday. So the fiscal year ends on Monday, June 30th. But if they don't hit that deadline, basically what happens is the budget that was passed 2 years ago, the other biennial budget, that just continues on those levels that were set 2 years ago. So it would just, it would be a pretty simple, move to have those continue, at least for the short term, before they make any long-term changes to the state budget. But still, we're getting down to crunch time, and we don't know exactly what's going to be happening at the Capitol today. They could be passing this budget in the Joint Finance Committee in the middle of the night tonight on a Friday evening before a big summer weekend. So it's one way to govern, right?
That'd be shocking that the legislature passes something in the darkness of night. That's never happened before, as I say facetiously.
It would be one thing to pass it now and just have a usual Friday news dump. The Wisconsin legislature always has to take things a little bit further.
Dan Schaefer, breaking news. We appreciate it. Democratic leader in the state Senate, Dianne Hasselbein, has now been invited to budget negotiations. According to Dan Schaefer's sources, this could dramatically shift the state budget talks. So we appreciate you being on. You'll be on top of this. Shelly Pittman, our news director, is on top of it as well. Really appreciate your time, Dan. Safe travels around the state.
Thanks for having me, Todd. Be well.
Always a pleasure. Dan Schaefer, you can find all of his work at www.therecombobulationarea.com, www.therecombobulationarea.com, and at civicmedia.us. Dan, thank you so very much. Right now, I want to bring in another friend of the program here. He was just on yesterday. We thought there's usually a little bit of time between now and one appearance and another with our friend Matt Flynn. But this tis the season, as they say, not for Christmas decorations, but for Supreme Court decisions at both the federal and state level. Joining us from his home in Milwaukee via StreamYard, he is a two-time chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, an attorney, an author, and a Navy veteran, Matt Flynn. Matt, thanks for taking time.
Good to be with you, Todd. Always like being on the Todd Allbaugh Show.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Let's start, if we can, Matt, with the state's Supreme Court decision here. Maybe not quite as big a surprise or far-reaching legal implications, but I think it's important nonetheless. It affects a smaller portion of Wisconsinites, particularly those living in Madison. There was a case before the Wisconsin State Supreme Court regarding the University of Wisconsin health system in Madison and their responsibility to collectively bargain with nurses. This has been a big thing for Madison. The state Supreme Court essentially said today, correct me if I'm wrong, they do not have to do that because of Act 10.
Right. Let me just say a couple of things. These people are my friends in the Supreme Court, the four in the majority. That said, I think they are far too cautious in what they're doing. Give you an example. Yesterday, we talked about a redistricting of congressional seats, and they took a cautious approach. They've got to understand that Donald Trump, crooked Donald Trump, has unleashed brown shirts around the country to beat up people and kill our democracy. And we've got to make a more aggressive stand. Now, today, we get this news about the Act 10 and about negotiating with nurses. Act 10 was an illegitimate piece of legislation. It's under review right now. I think ultimately it's going to be overturned. But remember what they did. They basically said that police and firefighters, very male-oriented professions, are not bound by it, but teachers, which are 80% female, are bound by it. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever, and that's only one of the things that's wrong with it under our Constitution. What I would have wished they'd done would say, no, the hell with Act 10. We're not going to preliminary rule on Act 10, but we are going to mandate collective bargaining, and we will get to Act 10 and the details later. In other words, let's take a stand. Quit being so damn cautious.
Mm-hmm. According to reporting from Channel3000.com, the CBS affiliate Kyle Jones here in Madison, just to set this in context for those of you that might not know what this actually is going on here, the Service International Employees Union, SEIU, which represents the nurses, had argued to the court that the University of Wisconsin Hospitals and Clinics Authority was included in the Wisconsin Employment Peace Act. And thus what Matt was referring there, basically, is it should have covered nurses as well as cops and firefighters, and thus required to collectively bargain. And the Wisconsin Employee Relations Commission in 2022 held that the Peace Act did not apply to those folks because of Act 10. In the unanimous decision today, the court sided with the hospitals, basically.
Too cautious. These are my friends. I supported them. Too cautious. There are two ways they could have done. Just simply say it is included in the Peace Act. They're the Supreme Court. But secondly, the other alternative way to rule on this thing is Act 10 is illegitimate. They're going to come around to saying that in future cases coming year. So, in other words, do a preliminary statement about it and permit collective bargaining.
A minute left here, Matt. We're going to come back and talk about this federal case. You're my friend. We have a beer together occasionally. But this one, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit respectively, because I think that until this is found Act 10 to be unconstitutional, I was in the building when this happened. I tend to agree with you. But until that, I think the current iteration of the Wisconsin Supreme Court said, look, this is the law today. We have to rule on that. And I think they made the right decision, not because I agree with the result, but because how they interpreted the law.
Right, and that's
off on that?
No, you're not. No. But the fact is that they did that with redistricting, and I'm saying this is not a normal Republican administration that we're fighting against. It's not normal at all. Yeah. This is a criminal enterprise that's beating people up in the streets, and we've got to take a stand. They should have with redistricting, and they should have here.
We'll come back, talk about what's going on nationally. The U.S. Supreme Court, a big ruling on birthright citizenship. What are the implications? What are these implications that Matt alluded to? We'll talk about that with Matt Flynn on the other side. Don't go anywhere. A busy TGIF edition of the Todd Allbaugh Across Wisconsin show across Wisconsin here on the Civic Media Radio Network. That was good. That was good.
Oh, it was fun. Great show. Schaefer's thing was good too. That's a great piece of info.
Yeah, no, that's big, and apparently there's not all is peaceful in the valley, as they say in the Republican caucus.
They're a gnarly group. They really are. They're a gnarly, unpleasant-looking group. They really are. They don't have a coherent ideology. Part of it is worship of Trump. But part of it is absolutely insane.
Drink responsibly, B21. You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. The U.S. Supreme Court said in 2019 that partisan gerrymandering was fundamentally a political issue and left it to legislatures and state courts to decide. In South Carolina, a state Supreme Court case heard June 24th challenges the state constitutionality of partisan gerrymandering. At the heart of the case is this provision in the South Carolina state constitution. All elections shall be free and open.
Dana, if you're watching on the stream in La Crosse, we will, Zomer's help remind me to get back to Dana's question, but I want Matt to kind of set this up, and then she has a question, he or she, I'm sorry, has a question about, Dana, he has a question about basically how to fix this, so I want to make sure we touch on that. But I want Matt, I want you to get the general explanation first here. Thank you, Terry, we appreciate that, and Daniel, hello.
Districts more white and conservative. Their admission of partisan gerrymandering is now being used against them. The League of Women Voters and ACLU argue that the admitted partisan gerrymandering, quote, violated voters' constitutional rights to free and open elections that are protected from all undue influence and where voters exercise equal influence over elections. The groups ask that the map be in compliance with the state constitution. We have links to more at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org.
Gracias.
On this side of the law, on that side of the law, who is right, who is wrong, who is for and who's against the law?
Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 22 now, past the hour of 2 o'clock on this Friday, June 27th. Busy news day, lots of breaking news. An update now from our news director, Charlie Pittman, who is at the Capitol about a block away from our downtown studios here in Madison. Charlie is reporting that Joint Finance Committee that our political editor, Dan Schaefer, reported at the top of the show. According to his sources, Republicans now have reached out to Democratic Senate leader Dianne Hasselbein to bring her into negotiations because they may, keyword may, need Democratic votes in the state Senate in order to pass the budget. Charlie Pittman, our news director, now reporting that the Joint Finance Committee, which had been pushed from 10 until 2, has now been pushed back to 4 o'clock. So things are not going well, apparently, to get to wrangle the votes, to whip the votes, as they say up there. Well, our new great news team will continue to update us. We'll bring you more reports as throughout the program. Right now, two-time Democratic chair, the Wisconsin Democratic Party of Wisconsin, an attorney, an author, and Navy veteran, Matt Flynn, joins us from his home in Milwaukee via StreamYard. Matt, good to be with you here again. We talked about the decision by the Wisconsin Supreme Court this morning. Let's talk about the big one nationally. According to CBS News here and obviously multiple other sources, the Supreme Court this morning limited the use of nationwide injunctions, reining in federal judges' ability to issue sweeping orders that have, in recent years, stymied implementation of policies for Republican and Democratic presidential administrators alike, unquote. That's a mouthful that I think most people say, what? As the late, great Judge Weissman, federal judge from Tennessee, liked to say, Matt Flynn, help us get it down there where the chickens can get at it. This really came down to this issue of birthright citizenship. Tell us what happened and what does it mean?
Yeah, what happened in the Supreme Court is contemptible. What they've done is ratified violence and sadism on the part of Trump and the Republican Party under the guise of some legal doctrine. Let me explain real quick. First of all, normally when a federal judge issues an injunction, it's statewide, nationwide. And so what they're saying is that's no longer going to be the case, except crooked Clarence Thomas, who's been bribed, and he's a tarantula. Clarence Thomas said, well, not necessarily in all cases. Read between the lines. Any injunction that favors Trump's policies will be binding nationwide. Anyone that isn't won't be. It'll only be binding on the litigants in that case. And so with birthright citizenship, the 14th Amendment says that there's birthright citizenship. What Donald Trump did was try to overturn that, and this court ratified it to a point. What they said is, if there's a litigant, somebody says, hey, I was born in this country, the court can give that person relief, but not nationwide. And there's 29 states that haven't attacked it, especially the red states. And you're going to see ICE, you're going to see brown shirts going through those states, beating up, kidnapping, and deporting people, ripping infants out of their mother's arms. That's what's happening.
And we've already seen it. There's new video this morning of a Latina woman, I believe it was in California, selling fresh fruit at a stand in a neighborhood, and people with gator masks on and camouflage without badges or ID numbers or identifying themselves, literally just hopped out, essentially kidnapped this woman, put her in an SUV, threw out tear gas, and took off. Let's and again, we love Matt. We love Matt, and these are his opinions, and he's entitled to them. But I think to get down to the facts that this came from. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. This case came from basically what it speaks to is the ability for one federal judge to make a ruling and say that one judge's ruling then affects an executive order by the president nationwide. The Supreme Court basically said, no, we don't think, at least the majority, the 6 conservatives said, no, we don't think that's true. It has to go through like a class action lawsuit. But tell us, Matt, why that's just almost a ridiculous ruling in class actions.
It's totally ridiculous. I've litigated class action lawsuits under Rule 23 of the Civil Rules of Civil Procedure. They're frequently attacked. They can be hard to establish. It would be a class of, say, all women in the United States whose children were born here, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. The truth of the matter is that there are Republican judges that have entered injunctions that have been bad. The fellow in Texas on the abortion drug, he banned it nationwide, that kind of thing, right? So, but all of these nationwide injunctions are immediately resolvable because injunctions are immediately appealable. Immediately. You don't have to wait. Mm-hmm. And you go up to the Court of Appeals, it can be overturned that afternoon, or you can go to the Supreme Court. When Donald Trump said it'll take years, he was lying. It hasn't taken years. None of them have taken years. And what they're now saying, and with Clarence Thomas with a very ominous concurrence, saying that that injunctions only bind the people in that courtroom, or perhaps that the state, but not beyond that.
So let me get down to...
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
Let's get down to the nuts and bolts. So for those who don't know, birthright citizenship, as Matt said, guaranteed the 14th Amendment of the Constitution says if you're born on U.S. soil, you're automatically a citizen, regardless of whether your parents are citizens or not. And so that's what Trump signed, the executive order in February, whatever it was this year, said from that day on that if you're born here and your parents aren't citizens, too bad, so sad. And so my question is, Matt, with this ruling by the Supreme Court today, is it feasible that the Trump administration in these red states that were not a part of this lawsuit, which I believe Wisconsin was part of the injunction, correct me if I'm wrong. So, but if you're not in one of these bluish states, if you're in a red state, could Trump's ICE, Homeland Security, whatever, take these kids that were born after February and deport them?
They could take infants out of their mother's arms, and that's exactly what they're doing. That's why I talk about sadism. I really mean that. What they're doing is terrifying. They have a quota of about 3,000 people. They're almost all people with brown skins, and they go around the country. They kidnap some. They beat up some. That one guy that had 3 sons in the Marine Corps, and he was a lawn care guy, they beat the hell out of him, held him down and beat the hell out of him. Those people should be prosecuted for excessive force.
And when Matt Flynn talks about sadism, defined, it means getting the pleasure out of seeing someone else be harmed.
Yes.
There's a sexual connotation, but Matt's not talking about that.
I'm not talking. That's Trump's business. That's for Trump discussion.
We'll come back more, Matt, on the other side. Stay tuned. Pam Yonke, the Farm Report's next. It's the Allbaugh Show for a Friday on Civic Media.
Wisconsin's real news and
I
great
had to clarify that because some Yahoo is
Actually,
going to say,
that's more than they had to know.
Wisconsin is lots on the grill.
That's
for
more than
decades.
that.
talking about
This is
sexual
the Civic
sadism.
Media
Well, I didn't say
Network.
sexual sadism.
I know, but somebody's going to try to put that in there. That's why I
Well,
did.
they-
That's
well,
why I
you-
wanted
you-
to.
Finally
yeah,
find
okay.
fresh
But
ears
it's
of
terrible.
Wisconsin sweet corn
They
at
grab
Wisconsin
infants out of the
farmers
mother's
market.
arms.
We're right on
Yes,
the farm.
absolutely.
I'm Stephanie Hoff for the Midwest Farm Report, along with you on a Friday. Today we're catching up with Brian Kent of Heidi's Happy Acres in Monroe.
This is a good
They've
discussion.
got about
This is a
an
good
acre and a
discussion.
Well,
half of
it's
sweet
important
corn,
discussion.
producing
No other
roughly
radio
25,000
station is talking
ears.
this way.
Brian says the cool
No, I don't
weather
think so.
to start the growing
WISN
season
is
wasn't
not, I'll tell you
ideal,
that.
but with the recent heat,
They're
things are turning
cheerleading
around
probably.
nicely.
You know?
Right.
The soil really never warmed up, so the first crops were just, they came out of the ground.
Going around to a place like
slow,
Whitehall, Wisconsin. Make
uneven.
Whitehall
That's
white
not good.
again.
I
You
mean,
know?
when you have uneven emergence, I mean, that
Right.
you're just not going to get as
Sick. I
many.
mean, it's just
So we
sick.
did have to do some replanting. The corn that we're planting, the white and the purple, the different variations that we're planting, they're not as hardy. They, we got to have warm soil and we got to.
Let's
have
get into it. We come
consistently
back.
warm weather
Got to set it up
for them to really
and
thrive.
and
Up
talk
until,
about
of
this
course, the
issue
last
of.
couple days here. We didn't have that right at the beginning. of the
Kind of pick up
growing
where
season,
we
so
left off.
it
What
was
does
a
this mean
challenge,
for
but you
real
know
people?
what?
So
Got some good
so
layers
so
of
kids that
crop
were
coming
born
now, so don't
to
worry, we'll have
parents who aren't
plenty of
citizens in
product.
February.
Heidi's
What could
Happy
happen to
Acres
them?
in Monroe will
And
start
is it
harvesting in
feasible
July.
that
Brian Kent,
that
along with us. Stick around. We've got to look at
moving
more
forward,
farm news
if
in
there's a
just
new
minute.
executive order, could Trump go after virtually anyone?
You know who should go after is Marco Rubio and Cash Patel. They're,
Right.
Seriously, they're both
Ted
anchor
Cruz.
babies. Oh, that's very true. Very, very true.
Ted Cruz.
And Moreno, the guy in Ohio, the senator. And,
Right.
Right.
Cleary Building
All of
Corp.
these people.
Cleary Building
Right.
Corp.
Yeah.
Build with pride before the shamrock is applied.
The answer is yes.
Explore
Under this ruling, he could do that.
today. Keep
At
up
some
with Pam
point,
at Midwest
is
Farm
Amy
Report
Comey
dot com
Barrett. I'm
and
very
on Facebook
disappointed that
and
she wrote that
Instagram.
opinion. Very disappointed.
Yeah.
When hot weather strikes your cattle, milk production drops and feed intakes decrease.
Any big plans this weekend, Matt Flynn? What's Matt Flynn doing on a weekend?
You know what Matt Flynn's doing? I have a novel coming out probably in the
At
next
BioVet's
week,
bovine
and
gold
I'm
line
writing
to
the
cows'
next
daily
one, and
ration.
I'm going to spend the whole weekend writing.
Bovine gold
It's
line
not very
keeps your
exciting, but I love doing
hydrated,
it.
maintains milk
That's great.
production,
That's awesome.
and keeps your breeding program in check.
This new one coming
Learn
out
more
is
about
somewhat
bovine gold
scandalous.
line at
So,
bio-vet.com.
Really?
yeah, I don't want to
I like a good
scandalize you,
scandalous
Todd.
novel.
Here's what's happening in agribusiness news on a Friday. 15 Wisconsin dairy students have earned scholarships from the National Dairy Shrine. These are students who aspire to be the dairy producers, communicators, scientists, or business leaders of tomorrow. These Wisconsin natives and college students brought home more than a third of the awards. You can see the list of recipients at MidwestFarmReport.com.
Are there any
While
calls
you're there,
or
check
texts?
out another story. The U.S.
One
Meat
one
Export
text
Federation in
on
Mexico has been working
remuneration.
alongside
Well, not
processors and
remuneration. It would
convenience
be a
store
relief,
chains
I guess,
for
is the
developing
proper
new
word.
snack
Wanting to know
items
about
featuring
relief.
U.S.
What could be?
pork. These
How can
snacks
people
are
seek
designed
relief?
for
So we'll get to
sporting
that.
events, music festivals, even
And I'll
flights.
give the number. I
Check
haven't
it
really
out
given the
at
number out. I wanted to get all this stuff on the
MidwestFarmReport.com.
table
I'm
first
Stephanie
before we
Hahn.
start
That's
taking
important.
calls.
Yeah, right.
Download the Civic Media app in the Google Play or Apple App Store and take us everywhere. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Mostly cloudy today, although we will see a little sun trying to peek in later this afternoon. Our high in the mid to upper 70s. Tonight, partly cloudy. We'll drop to 59 tomorrow. Mostly sunny, high of 86 with a few scattered thunderstorms late tomorrow night into Sunday. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Right now, it's 78.
The John and Gordy Show.
Would you rather have all traffic lights you approach be green or never have to stand in line ever again?
I hate standing in line. I hate it.
But you can't avoid it.
I
It's
know
going to
you can't.
happen no matter what.
Well, you can't
can
avoid
wish
getting
all
a red
you
light
want
either.
That
Don't get
you're
me
never
started
going to
on
stand
this.
in line
I don't
again.
care what
but
you
that
say.
doesn't matter.
Oh, okay, next question.
All right, next question is...
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app. Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Todd Michaels joins us now.
I have to give a shout out to Oshkosh. It's a very underrated.
About 35 seconds.
Thank you.
is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. Bound
Keep going, Sommer.
by wild
We actually
desire,
have this is a live feed from the Joint Finance Committee hearing room
I
right
fell
now.
into a ring of fire.
Live from the Capitol.
I fell into a burning ring of fire.
Apparently,
I
the
went
state
down,
budget
down,
is going down
and
in
the
a ring of
flames
fire
went higher,
right now in the
and
state
it
capitol.
burns,
That is what
burns,
live coverage. Welcome back, everybody. The Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 35 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. In all seriousness, our great news team, Shelly Pittman, our news director at the Capitol, reports now that the Joint Finance Committee has gone from the 10 o'clock start time to a 2 o'clock start time, and now being pushed back to a 4 o'clock start time this afternoon. Zommers?
Correct me if I'm wrong. This was also rescheduled from yesterday, right?
Yes, it was also rescheduled from yesterday. Our very own Dan Schaefer, political editor, reported at the top of the show his sources are telling him that Republicans are now reaching across the aisle, which I actually think is a good thing, to Democratic leader Dianne Hasselbein. Might have been nice to ask her at the start of the negotiations or the process instead of 3 days before the deadline. But nonetheless, it appears that Democratic votes may well be needed in order to pass the state budget. We'll continue to follow that. Also, breaking news in the state and federal Supreme Court this morning. The federal Supreme Court, in a widely anticipated decision, according to CBS News, stemming from President Trump's executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship. In other words, if you're born in U.S. soil, you're a U.S. citizen. The High Court said that the universal orders likely exceeded what they call the equitable authority that Congress has granted to the federal courts. Justice Amy Coney Barrett authored the majority opinion for a 6-3 court with the liberal justices in dissent. If you'd like to weigh in on this, give us a call, 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842, or text us on the Civic Media app. Joining us from his home in Milwaukee, our ongoing contributor, Matt Flynn, two-time chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, and attorney, author, and Navy veteran. Matt, thanks for sticking around for just a bit more here, because I want to just dive into this. We have a text from Dana in La Crosse I'm going to get to in a minute. But again, I want to get into because there's a lot of words here, and I know for somebody like you who's an attorney, you understand this, and you don't need to put it in simplistic terms like Todd needs here, and a lot of our listeners, because we're not attorneys, we don't follow this. For the average person in Wisconsin, tell us what this means, because I know there's a lot of people who have immigrated from other countries, and there are people who are born in Wisconsin whose parents might not be citizens. They might have come, as they say, documented with papers, but they might be on a J-1 visa. They might be on a visitor visa, a B-1 visa. They might be grad students at UW-Milwaukee or Madison or Green Bay, and they have a kid here. Those kids, at least up until now, were U.S. citizens. What does this decision today mean for them?
This decision deliberately sows chaos and deliberately ratifies cruelty by the Trump administration, especially in 29 states that had not contested this order. The 14th Amendment, it was passed in, I think it was 1869 or 70. It's a very, very old amendment, very old, said that if you're born in the United States, you're an American citizen with one exception, and that is if you're subject to the authority of another country, you're not. The reason is that the English ambassador, the British ambassador in Washington, if his or she or he gives birth to a child here, they're not citizens because they're the ambassador. They're subject to the King of England. It's a very narrow exception. Trump is saying, no, it doesn't. He's not a constitutional scholar. No, it only applies to slaves back in the 1860s. And it's kaput after that. And you raise an interesting point. Could he issue another executive order under this decision going back a lot longer than February this year? In which case he could deport Marco Rubio, Kash Patel, Mercedes Cannon, the she-wolf down in Florida, and Moreno, the Republican right-wing senator in Ohio. Get rid of him. I'd love to see that, but it's not going to happen.
To your point, our friend Stuart Stevens, one of the co-founders of the Lincoln Project and also at Lincoln Square, tweeted out just a moments ago said, if Trump's, this is from Stuart Stevens, quote, if Trump's world thinks birthright citizenship harms America, let's make it retroactive. The parents of J.D. Vance's wife weren't American citizens when she was born in America. She's an anchor baby. Clearly, Trump and Stephen Miller and Vance believe she's a danger to America. So to protect America, their logic would have her citizenship revoked and she and her children would be deported. That makes sense?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
That's from Stuart Stevens.
Yeah, right. But hey, here's a breaker. It ain't going to happen. In other words, what he did is he started it in February, but the cruelty is they're going up to women with infants, seriously, infants in their arms and ripping them out. The woman's crying. If the husband punches this ICE agent, he's going to be the hell beaten out of him and commit a felony. They can't protect themselves. And this is being directed basically against minority people, brown-skinned people. 3,000 a day quota. And Bondi, the Bond girl, who is the attorney general for Trump, it gave a press conference today and said, oh, we're only doing this to vicious criminals from other... That's baloney. That's baloney. Yeah. They beat the hell out of a lawn care guy who had punched him in the face. It is absolute cruelty. And there's an unverified so far report that they are considering recruiting Proud Boys as basically for a posse to go around and grab people themselves.
Well, there's been reports of this. We've seen this. And I haven't talked a lot about it because I haven't seen it on what you consider legacy media yet, but there seems to be, by the videos I've seen alone and some other reporting, that people reported that bounty hunters, and bounty hunting is a legit thing in America, particularly like places like Texas, where
not in Wisconsin.
Right. But no, it was in like places like Texas. You could have, some Yahoo that has a, concealed carry permit, and if you round up this wanted person and bring them in, you get a fee for it. And there are reports now that Homeland Security and ICE are paying bounty hunters to bring in people of Latino ethnicity for $1,000, $1,500 a day, Matt.
Right. That is illegal in many states. And what's happened, bounty hunters before have killed people. They've gone in and the guy doesn't know who they are. The guy has a coonskin hat on and no teeth, and he goes in to arrest them. They pull out a gun. They shoot him. We cannot permit that kind of culture to set foot in America. It should be illegal. The Republican Party is terrified of Trump, and they're going along with it.
So, and I know you're legally bound. You can't give people legal advice or whatever. But as a longtime attorney who knows the law, again, let's give people, we'll call them guidelines. What would you tell your friends if they're walking? And this is not inconceivable. We've seen it in Wisconsin already. Judge Hannah Dugan, of course, a slightly different situation, but she was arrested in her own courthouse, for goodness sake. If your average Wisconsinite who happens to be a brown-skinned person, if these people show up and don't identify themselves and have gator masks over them, what's the recourse? What should they do? What can they do?
What I would counsel is this. First of all, the fellow out in California thought he was being grabbed by a cartel. I mean, it's quite seriously. Right. And you got to defend yourself. If you reasonably believe this is going to be ICE, I would not resist physically, because they'll beat the hell out of you and charge you with a felony, and you'll have to hire a lawyer, and it'll be a long deal. But I think what you can do is give them no information. No information. If they ask you, what about you? What are you doing here? I would like to talk to my lawyer. Use that phrase, because the Supreme Court, the ones in D.C., let them ask a lot of things, but that one thing, if they bust through, they're not going to get away with it. So I want to talk to a lawyer. What's your name? You can give them the name. I want to talk to my lawyer. I refuse to answer on the grounds that it might incriminate me. Not because you're a criminal, but because they're criminals and they'll misstate what you said. I want to talk to my lawyer. I demand to talk to my lawyer. You can say that. Don't fight with them, because if it is ICE, they get pleasure out of beating the hell out of people. Trump has basically recruited two armies of violence. One is these brown shirt types that go out, but the other one was January 6th, storming the Capitol, and he keeps sending signals out to him by insulting journalists, by insulting judges, and it has the effect. Hang Mike Pence. And he grinned and he watched them. He encouraged them to do it. He said Hillary Clinton should be taken care of by the Second Amendment people. He encourages violence.
I would be remiss, Matt Flynn, and you can speak for yourself, but I'd be remiss if I didn't separate out the discussion we're having on ICE agents from federal Homeland Security, who, at least in my opinion, some, if not many, are going overboard. And because there's video of this, doing exactly what you're saying, beating the crap out of brown-skinned people, many of whom, there's already been research done, it's like over 60% have zero criminal record, meaning they have no violent record. And like 90% have never even had a parking ticket. So there's a big difference between federal people beating up those kind of folks and what happened in Milwaukee last night, where 2 Milwaukee police officers were shot, basically ambushed, and are fighting for their life, last time I heard, in the hospital. I fully support our local law enforcement folks like that. That's very different to me, Matt, than these federal ICE folks.
Totally different. Listen, my uncle and my cousin served as police officers. I am 100% for the police. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about guys who are walking up to a woman in a fruit cart or a woman with a baby and roughing them up, beating this other guy. That's totally different. The Milwaukee cops are my friends. Cops are our friends. Totally different deal.
I just want to make sure we had that on the table.
Absolutely.
And make
Very
sure
good
people know.
point.
Let's go quickly to the phone lines, 855-752-4842. Mark in Pernisac. Mark, 1 minute left. You can make it brief, please. Go ahead.
Well, under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, it's supposed to be Congress establishing rules for naturalization, setting aside the 14th Amendment. Also, for anybody born prior to this decision, under the same article, Section 9, that no ex post facto laws in this country. So anybody born prior to that decision is automatically an American citizen if they're born in this country. And, I mean, it's time to just tell these ICE guys to FCC non-compliant word that Trump is using all the time.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it, Matt.
Yeah, well, the thing is, there are a lot of legal objections to this, but when you have a guy like Clarence Thomas who took $4.5 million and is repaying his backers, and the rest of them, Alito, many people think he's the one that slipped out the Dobbs decision. This is not a legitimate Supreme Court. They are tarantulas.
Let's go to the text line really quick, Matt. This came from Dana a little bit earlier in the show. Dana in La Crosse, listening to WLCX, says, is there a legislative fix, either federal, state, to mitigate or reverse these terrible decisions that are being handed down today, either later or down the road after Democrats would get power back at the executive branch? Matt?
The answer is yes, and I've litigated that issue. It's stare decisis until it's overturned, like Dobbs overturned Roe v. Wade. So if a good Supreme Court gets in, a good Democrat, they can overturn all of it. Every decision, it's whatever that new Supreme Court says.
Very quickly, Jada Madison, WMDX, won't Trump just try to use this decision to strip citizenship from anyone he considers an enemy? Matt, 30 seconds.
The answer is yes, and Clarence Thomas gave in the concurring opinion, Clarence Thomas said, well, not every injunction is limited, and what he was talking about is pro-Trump injunctions will not be limited.
All right, we're going to have to take another quick break. Come on back. Matt in Richland Center has a text from Matt Flynn. So Matt to Matt on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show for a Friday, June 27th, 2025. Stay with us across Wisconsin on the Civic Media. Ready to go.
And it burns, burns, burns. The ring of fire, the ring of fire, the ring of fire.
In his summer weekends being spent on the lake. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Always a good time when you stop in at
So what do you have planned for the weekend, Todd?
You won't want to miss the live music every week on the
My
Music Patio.
oldest godson and his wife, or his partner, I guess I should say, they're not married yet, but they are in town from Indiana. I'm going to see them, hang out with them a little bit.
Great.
And then Sunday night, got to go up to Green Bay and staying up there because my stepmother turns 80 on Monday, and they're having a party for her, so I'm going to do a little bit of that, and I'm going to do the second half of my show from the Green Bay studios. So
outstanding.
On the road.
Very fun.
The winning will take care of itself. We just have to get everyone involved. In interscholastic sports, we celebrate what makes every one of us unique.
There's a large part of me that would just like to go on a Caribbean island and chill out.
And in the community.
Just
Well,
ignore it.
It's
right?
not like you don't got enough news to talk about. God almighty.
I mean, honest to God, there's a part of me that's afraid to leave the country right now.
Right.
Whether or
Well,
not
I know
I get
people
back
who
in.
won't. Guy was invited to a wedding in Morocco. Said, I'm not going. Really? No. He was a guy who was born in Pakistan. He's afraid they won't let him back
that's
in.
Not, yeah, right now is not the time, I would imagine.
No, definitely. Hey, Aaron, how you doing? Mr. Zama.
Doing well yourself?
Very good. Good to hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Find a lot worse on your radio dial.
Oh, there he is.
Yes, I am here.
There you are, my friend. There you are.
Boring, insipid. Who wants to hear that first thing in the morning? At least John and Gordy give you accurate weather information.
Did you see
Crazy
Trump's press
stuff.
conference this morning?
Relatively informed.
Trump's press
They show up
conference?
to
No, I
the
didn't see this
It was the most
That's not easy when
bizarre,
you're getting up at 4 a.m. They
sociopathic
tell you
stream of
about
words
what's
I
available
think
at
I've
the
ever
Humane
seen in my
Society.
life.
Oh, and poor Dominic. He didn't know what he was getting into.
I've
but
just
let's
gotten
put
to
a
the
vote
point
in for John
where
Gordy and Dominic
I don't
Reed.
know.
Vote
It's
for
just, I mean,
Dominic.
it would be entertaining if it was a Saturday Night Live sketch,
Yeah,
but this
but
is
it's
real
not.
life.
Yeah.
This is your captain. We are going
Crazy.
to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
There's a funny text from Mark.
Imagine
We'll
the
read
pilot
that
of
the
an
other side.
airplane was as confident as you are technically driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
The John and Gordy Show.
Yeah, something weird happened over the weekend to us. You know, I went to Walmart to get some work done on my glasses, and in
About
the
30
parking
seconds.
lot, I see
Gracias.
Not in my car.
Hey, get a rhythm. When you get the blues, come on, get a rhythm. When you get the blues, get a rock and roll feeling in your bones, put taps on your toes, and get gone, get a rhythm.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show.
When
The Civic
you
Media
get
Radio
the
Network.
blues.
8 minutes now before the hour of 3 o'clock. At the top of the hour, news, weather, and sports, followed by what's worse in hour number 2. We should ask Matt Flynn. He's an attorney. What's worse, renting or owning? Whether it's whether a property or a piece of equipment. Any thoughts on that, Matt? What's worse?
Yeah, it depends on what area of the country you're in and how often you use the equipment, if that's what you're having.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in general, the problem with owning is that you have an awful lot of ownership obligations and repair and maintenance. On the other hand, if that area is going to appreciate in value, terrific. But otherwise, it's frequently easiest just to rent.
Look at that. An unexpected answer from Matt Flynn to kick us off. I love it. We'll ask you all in hour number 2, what's worse, renting or owning? And then Peter Rapine from EPOM's World will be here at the bottom of the hour with news, as Johnny Carson used to say, of the weird, wild, and wacky. Wacky. I did not know that. It'll be the Week in Review with Peter Rapine. Right now, Matt Flynn, two-time chair of the Democratic Party, Wisconsin, an attorney, author, and Navy vet with us, talking about this decision from the U.S. Supreme Court on birthright citizenship. Matt, right before the break, we had Matt in Richland Center, one of our great UPS drivers, listening on his route. Matt Flynn, Matt in Richland Center on WRCE asks, does this now set a precedent where anytime a lower federal court makes a ruling Trump doesn't like, the Supreme Court can say it can't make that ruling? I thought birthright citizenship was pretty clear in the Constitution. Matt Flynn?
Right. It is clear in the Constitution, Matt. And one of the things that I'm concerned about is that Pam Bondi, in her press conference, said the court is going to decide it in October. Not clear to me how she knew that. But if it is going to decide it in October, if it buys into Trump's theory, that's contrary to the 14th Amendment. It's going to take a future Supreme Court to clean that up. But to your point, yeah, absolutely. In other words, and Clarence Thomas signaled this in his concurrence. In other words, if it's a pro-Trump decision, great, seashells and balloons, and everybody is happy around the country. But if it's not a pro-Trump decision, it's narrowly confined to just that plaintiff. And the fallacy of all this, Trump this morning said it takes years to undo a bad one. That's false. An injunction is immediately appealable under the law, can be overturned that evening by the Court of Appeals, and it can be overturned the next day by the U.S. Supreme Court, and frequently is in big cases.
Jim in Campbellsport listening in. Jim, we appreciate that. Says, Todd, Matt, shouldn't Donald Trump's kids be deported? Well, that's kind of the point, right? I mean, we only half jest, but I mean, if you're going to follow it to the law.
You could deport Melania. You could deport J.D. Vance's wife and kids. You could deport Marco Rubio, Kash Patel, Moreno, Ted Cruz, Mercedes Cannon, the she-wolf in Florida. You could deport them all. I'd like to see that, quite frankly. It ain't going to happen, okay? It ain't going to happen. That's not what's going on here. What's going on here, if you're loyal to Trump, great. And if you're not, especially if you're not white, deport us 3,000 a day if you can.
Connie, listening on WMDX in Madison, asks Matt, if Trump doesn't want children born in the U.S. to be citizens, what about his own kids? So kind of the same line there. This is a great one. Matt, you're a good Catholic, represented the Catholic diocese in court. Mark in Perdisac says Pope Leo should excommunicate the Gang of Six on the Supreme Court.
I also represent the Episcopal Church and the Mormon Church, so I have an eclectic knowledge about all this stuff. But I mean, that's a funny line. But look, the point of the matter is we have separation of church and state. We don't want to get into all that. However, it's very hypocritical what they're doing, which is they're singling out some people. Basically, 3,000 people a day is the quota. How many white people do you think are going to get picked up in that?
Zero.
Almost zero.
And there's a lot of undocumented white people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And, they just overstay visas. Elon Musk, by the way, was illegal. When he came in, he was given a visa specifically to go to Stanford. This is when he was a student. He blew it off. And after that happens, you can't cure that yourself. You have to, they're not going to deport Elon Musk.
No. And Stephen Miller, the guy who's running point on all this terrible immigration policy stuff for Trump, he's salty at Elon Musk because Musk just told his wife. That's real.
Yeah, that's nasty. That's nasty. Geez. Yeah, we want to dig too deep on that. But the point is that if you took a look at the Republican hierarchy and you did an MRI of their private lives, it'd make the hair on a monkey's back stand straight on end.
It's again one of these hypocritical things by my former party where they want to live their lives one way, but they don't want to offer those same traditional American opportunities for other people.
They're corrupting our democracy, and it all goes back. Trump is frightened of Putin. He's servile to Putin. He's afraid Putin will release the Steele video, so he gives him anything he wants, betrays Ukraine, betrays NATO, and then he replicates a lot of Putin-esque government in this country. And everybody goes, okay. What do you mean, okay? What's happened to the eunuchs of the Second Reich, the second Trump term, the Republican senators?
Matt Flynn, what are you doing this weekend?
Well, I'm writing my next book, but I want to flog my most recent one that's coming out in about a week, American Dawn. Very, very different, very hard-hitting, and I won't say much more, but it shows a side of the Republican Party and even the Democratic Party that most people don't know about.
I heard the word salacious mentioned.
Well, it's scandalous. It's quite
scandalous, not salacious.
But you're too innocent to read this book, okay?
Don't
read the book. Everybody that's listening to this, do not read American Dawn. Believe me.
You're the only author I've ever heard that said, don't read my book.
Don't read it. It's scandalous. It was scandalous, people.
Matt, we appreciate you being with us 2 days in a row. I love your ability to take these things, make the things that I don't always get legally, and put them into real terms. That means a lot to me. So I know our listeners and viewers like it as well. So thank you very much for being with us, Matt. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you
later.
Good
to be with you. Same to you.
Always a pleasure, Matt Flynn. Coming up next, what's worse, renting or owning? Your chance to phone in, and Peter Rapine with a week in review. Don't go anywhere. It's the Allbaugh Show for a Friday on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Get rhythm when you get the blues.
you, sir. Appreciate it. That was
Thank
great.
you, Todd. See you next time.
All right, have a good
Take
weekend.
care.
Yep, bye-bye.
Adios. Conversation. A civic media station.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Several major decisions by the Supreme Court. One case allowing states to require age verification to access porn sites. ABC's
Here I have
the court upheld
a
Texas
chocolate
age
scone from Wonder
verification
State
law
Coffee.
for adult websites,
I bet that's
saying,
delicious.
that it is permissible under the First Amendment for states to require
I
individuals
apologize for eating
to
corn bread,
upload
buddy.
a copy of their ID.
The
in
AI
order
suggested
to
title
see
for that
porn.
hour
In another
is
case, the
Budget
Supreme
Battles
Court
and
siding with
Birthright
the Trump
Brouhaha.
administration
I will
to
tell you
limit
what,
lower
I did
courts'
not use
use
that.
of nationwide injunctions.
The old AI loves alliteration.
It really does. Can you check and see if we have anything from right by?
With Canada, he says after learning Canada announced they're putting a digital service tax on U.S. tech companies. He also plans to bump up tariffs on Canada in a week. The defense has concluded closing arguments in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Prosecutors will address jurors
Sean
once
Diddy?
again before the judge
P. Diddy?
outlines jury instructions. This is
nothing yet.
ABC News.
Okay.
Local news, weather, and sports on air and streaming on the Civic Media app. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. A new study shows that putting people behind bars costs American families $350 billion every year. Judith Ruiz Branch reports.
The study from Forward.us says 1 in 2 American adults has seen incarceration in their immediate family, with higher rates among Black Americans. Families with a member in jail or prison spend about $4,000 a year, and the report says for Black families, the cost is more than double due to longer sentencing. Zoe Towns with Forward.us says expenses like phone calls, care packages, long-distance travel, and new costs at home all contribute to the exorbitant price.
It also includes depressed wages over the lifetime of the person who's incarcerated, who's no longer able to contribute, but also to all the other members of the family oftentimes are also now experiencing lower pay just because of all of the shock of incarceration and the disruption that comes with that.
She adds the children of people behind bars usually see their own wages depressed throughout their lifetime, even after a parent is released.
Interesting,
Wisconsin's incarceration rate is among the highest in the nation.
Cam just sent
Black
that.
Wisconsinites are locked
Good
up at a
Lord.
rate nearly 12 times higher than whites, despite making up just 6% of the state's population.
got
The
a
report
frog in my
shows
throat.
incarceration
Good
rates
Lord.
are also higher
By the
for
way,
people in
Cam,
poverty,
they
with
just announced
subsequent
something today that you may
expenses
find
eating up more than a
interesting.
quarter
So
of the
I'm a
family
nerd.
income.
I play
Town
Magic
says
the
the
Gathering.
stigma around
Got an email earlier
incarceration
today.
often
They're
means it's
doing
overlooked
a
in
crossover with
discussions
Sonic
about
the
household
Hedgehog.
budgets.
This report comes at a time when
This stuff is getting
lawmakers and the
ridiculous.
American
Now I can have a
public
deck
are really thinking seriously
play,
about spending,
a pretty like
about
classic
price
fantasy
of
card game.
everyday costs.
Now
They're
I
thinking
can
about
have a deck
affordability,
led by
and this is
SpongeBob
just one of
SquarePants,
those key drivers of
featuring
affordability
Sonic
that
the
is pretty
Hedgehog,
significant and also under-discussed.
Cloud from
Wisconsin
Final
News
Fantasy
Connection, I'm
VII,
Judith Ruiz
driving
Branch.
a
And I'm
motorcycle.
Savannah Tomei Olson, 92.7 WMDX News.
Like it's just all kinds of crazy stuff
It's
in
the
there now.
Brewers and the Rockies.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball this weekend at American
I kinda
Family
want to,
Field
just
as
'cause
the
it's
Brewers
ridiculous.
host the Colorado
It's
Rockies.
also expensive,
the
though,
Brewers
so I
one of
probably
the
won't.
hottest teams in baseball right now. They're 14-8
Maybe I'll
for the
just
month
print
of
out a
June.
copy
The
of it
addition of
and
23-year-old right-hand pitcher Jacob
it in front of a real
Mizorowski
card.
has brought the team national attention. The Miz, now 3-0, after perhaps the best start in professional baseball since records have been kept beginning back in 1901. I talked to the Brewers catcher Eric Haas on what it was like working with Mizorowski during the Brewers' 4-2 win over the Pirates on Wednesday.
Electric, that's Miz. Him missing a couple, walking a couple of guys and a little erratic, able to calm down himself and get right back on the bump and stay on the attack. That was huge for us.
NBA, the Bucks say they were truly excited to draft Bogolov Markovic, the 6'11" forward out of Serbia. The team also adding Alabama guard Mark Sears in a two-way contract to their roster and their G League team. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
This report is brought to you by Freedom Fireworks, with 20 locations throughout southeastern Wisconsin. FreedomFireworksWI.com.
Mostly cloudy today, although we will see a little sun trying to peek in later this afternoon. Our high in the mid to upper 70s. Tonight, partly cloudy. We'll drop to 59 tomorrow. Mostly sunny, high of 86 with a few scattered thunderstorms late tomorrow night into Sunday. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 77.
The 4th of July is right around the corner, and Freedom Fireworks has everything your family needs for a safe and exciting holiday celebration. With 20 southeastern Wisconsin locations fully stocked up with everything from sparklers to artillery shells, thunder snaps to 500-gram aerials, Freedom Fireworks guarantees to bring smiles and cheers to every backyard celebration. For fireworks from all the top brands and specials that can't be beat, go to freedomfireworkswi.com for a location near you. Freedom Fireworks wishes you a safe and happy 4th of July.
At Hazelden Betty Ford, treating mental health isn't just about breaking old patterns. It's about braving new ones. As the leader in alcohol and drug treatment for 75 years, we know care for addiction, anxiety, depression, and trauma goes hand in hand. We're
About
here for you
30
with new
seconds.
tools when
Thank
life
you.
breaks.
From the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our engineer and producer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on this Friday, June 27th, 2025. It is a great day to be Wisconsinite. Glad to be with you. Hour number 2 of the big program here at the World Headquarters, downtown Madison, State Street. Want to take a little look at the Sam Davison Street Camp? Or is,
I don't think it's.
I moved it over there.
You moved it over. It is pointing at the street.
Yes.
So
It's
let's take
actually
a look here.
Let's take it's partly cloudy skies right now. Some sun coming in downtown Madison. People are out and about. It's a little. It needs to be washed off. Somehow the lens got a little blurry there. Sorry about that. Oh no, it's clearing up. It's clearing up slowly but surely. Look, they have the street blocked off. Something happening on. Must be something going on in State Street today. They have the upper part of State Street blocked. A barricade.
Yeah, I wonder what it is.
They have farmers market in the morning. They do that for that.
Also, I know this weekend there's going to be a concert in Camp Randall.
Oh, that's right. Morgan Wallen.
But I wouldn't think they'd have this closed off up here for that.
I don't know.
But what do I know?
Things are going down. Things there it is. People are enjoying themselves in downtown Madison. Hopefully you're enjoying yourself. Maybe a few showers, isolated thunderstorms across parts of Wisconsin today. Brittany Merlot will keep us updated on that. But overall, fairly nice weekend, I think, for most of Wisconsin. Maybe some storms rolling through, I think, Saturday night into Sunday as well. Some of those could be a little heavy, but seasonal summer weather. Zommers, you were off yesterday, and you have a big vacation. That's fantastic. We support that, but it kind of fell through.
Yeah, so I was going to go see a singer, Banks is her name, with my sister who really loves her. And so the other day, she posts on her Instagram story that, all right, guys, we're going to have to reschedule the concert because something big came up. You'll understand. And then takes that off of the story. And so we're like, so is it canceled or not? And a bunch of people contact customer service. And they're like, everything on our end says it's still going through. And then Wednesday night, we do get the official email. Nope. Turns out she is rescheduling the concert because she got an offer to open up for Lana Del Rey in the UK, which would make it pretty difficult to also play a concert in Chicago at the same time.
Let me get this straight. She ditched you and all your friends to go play in the UK.
Yeah.
That's terrible. I truly feel like here you took the day off and everything, but yeah, I guess at least you had a day off.
Yeah, I just chilled at home.
Yeah. All right. Well, very good. But glad to have you back. Many thanks to our very own Parker Olson for being here yesterday.
Yes, thank you, Parker.
He did a great job. But always great to have Zommers back on the board. Coming up at the bottom of this hour, we are going to check in with our old friend Peter Rapine, who has been on vacation himself to Europe for a couple of weeks We'll ask him how that went. But more importantly, as the managing editor of EPOM's World, he brings us bi-weekly the news of the world of the wild, wacky, real behavior of humans and how crazy it can be. So headlines of the week in review with Peter Rapine at the bottom of the hour. Our very own news director, Shelly Pittman, who is all over this breaking news this afternoon in the state capitol at Last Word when it comes to the Joint Finance Committee, the budget process. They were supposed to meet yesterday. That got pushed back to today at 10 a.m., which got pushed back to 2 a.m., and now Shelly reports that it's now 4 p.m. is when they're going to meet tonight, or this afternoon. We'll see if that holds. Our very own Dan Schaefer of the Recombobulation Area and Civic Media's political editor reporting at the top of this show that his sources are telling him, Dan Schaefer, that Republicans now have reached out to Democratic Senate leader Dianne Hesselbein and have invited Senator Hesselbein into negotiations on the state budget because they feel that it's going to take at least some Democratic votes in order to pass a budget. Both State Senator Kapinga and Nass, Republicans, have publicly said they're a no right now. And so it could be that Democrats have to be brought in, which I think is a good thing to have a bipartisan vote or a bipartisan budget. But this has complicated things because the Republicans, at least in the Senate, cannot whip their caucus, and that's what it's called in politics, whipping the votes, getting people in line politically, not physically. But wouldn't that be something? Anyway, they're trying to whip the votes politically. They can't get there, so they've invited in Democrats, according to Dan Schaefer's reporting. So that might be part of what's slowing this down. Shelly Pittman is all over this and will bring us the headlines as they become available. Also, she is listening in right now, and this is how great Shelly Pittman is. She knows everything about Madison. She knows why the blockade is up in the 100 block of State Street. It's because it's the Mad Lit event series, and tonight it's Latin night. How did I not know about this?
I didn't either.
It is Latin night tonight in downtown Madison. It'll be a good time had by all. So that'll be fun. I know what I'm doing after work. The truck's already parked. I just got to go outside and have a Latin night.
So for me, it's one of my roommates' birthdays tomorrow, and we're going out to celebrate tonight. So I will be doing that.
Have fun with that. I know the oldest, my favorite oldest godson. I have a favorite oldest, favorite youngest, the favorite oldest, Alex, and his girlfriend Keegan are in town. I think we're going to hang out a little bit. We talked about doing a kayaking camping trip on the river. A little too steamy and hot. So the secondary option is having a beverage on the deck, which is fine.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. So, and then on Monday, this will be a lot of fun. On Monday, Pat Kreitlow and Trygve Olsen taking the reins for the first hour of the show. We plan to have State Senator Kelda Royce on, updating us on the state budget process. Todd is going to be at my 80th stepmother's, not my 80th. Wouldn't that be something? Yes,
your dad got remarried a lot of times.
My dad had 80 wives.
Honestly, that's impressive for somebody who doesn't live in Utah.
Oh, there's a joke there somewhere. Anyway, my stepmother is turning 80 on Monday. There's a little happening Monday afternoon. So I'm going to go to Shawano and dip in on that, and then dip out and go to Green Bay. I'll be bringing you the second half of the show from the Green Bay studios, although I have not talked to Todd Michaels about that.
Well, he's been on vacation.
I think it'll be fun because we're going to do it in the conference room.
Right.
We're going to do it.
It shouldn't be an issue.
I could do it from the shower.
If you had to.
Fully clothed, of course, but I could do there's a shower at Green Bay.
Man, that would sound horrible.
I know, it would sound horrible. Anyway, that's the show on Monday. That'll be a lot of fun. You got Kreitlow, you got Trygve, State Senator Kelda Royce, you got myself, and then probably our folks in Wisconsin Watch will stop in. So that'll be the Monday show. All right now it's 13 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Time for What's Worse. Let's go.
This or that. And of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that.
Time once again for What's Worse. No prize money involved, nothing to give away, but it is your chance to have your voice heard across statewide radio. All 11 stations, second largest radio network, only behind Wisconsin Public Radio. But boy, the way things are going, we might end up being the first. I'm not the biggest.
Certainly heading that direction.
That's sad. Sad, bad, not glad. Feel bad for our colleagues in media at Wisconsin Public Radio, making a lot of cuts here this last week. But as they say, that's another bottle of wine. Right now, at the top of our list is what's worse. Category today, and I guess this is timely because during the summer, lots of projects, maybe tree trimming, lawn mowing, spraying.
Putting in new floors,
Replacing
replacing your carpet with hardwood.
And you think to yourself, well, I don't want to buy that piece of equipment. It's like $300, so I'll just rent it. Well, here we go. The category today, what's worse, renting or owning? Renting or owning? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842, or text us on the Civic Media app. No better place to get the app than to text into the Civic Media app. By the way, it's Friday. You remember it's Friday?
It is Friday.
We've had such a breaking news day. It just occurred to me that today is Friday. Because one of the things you can do on the Civic Media app is the old free Friday ticket giveaway where we give away 4 Milwaukee Brewer tickets. It just occurred to me.
Yeah. Oops.
So let's do something. Can we do this simultaneously? Can we do 2 bits at the same time, Zommers?
I think we have to.
I think we have to. So if you want to call in on what's worse, 855-752-4842, renting or owning. But right now it's 16 past 3. It's time once again for Free Ticket Friday. Let's go. Sorry, I went too fast. That was the problem. We'll get there. I promise you.
Her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love.
That's right. It's time for Free Ticket Friday. Give away 4 tickets to a Milwaukee Brewer game to be named later. No, we'll look it up for you. We'll tell you which game it is. You have to be able to go to a specific game, and we're going to give you a word here in just a minute. When we give you the word, then text in. Download the Civic Media app at your app store, Apple or Android device. It is free, all right? Open up the app. The first 11 stations are the ones that we're on. Click on one of the first 11 stations on the Civic Media app, and then there'll be the lower right-hand corner. It'll say text. Zommers is about to give you a word. First of all, Zommers, do we have the game and the day this is for?
Yeah. This one is a quicker turnaround than normal. It is the versus the Rockies this Sunday. So Sunday, the 29th at 1:10 p.m.
So you have to be able to go this Sunday, the 29th at 1:10 p.m. against the Colorado Rockies. You cannot trade it for another game. All right? So if you could go this Sunday in just a couple of days here, the word to text right now is
play. P-L-A-Y. Play.
The word is play. P-L-A-Y. Text the word play right now to the Civic Media app. P-L-A-Y. The word is play. Text the word play right now to the Civic Media app. And at the end of this hour, so you're going to be competing against a smaller pool of people than usual. Therefore, your chances of winning are much greater. Because I forgot to give you the word the first hour. So we had breaking news. You understand? It was a busy first hour with all this breaking news. So text the word play, P-L-A-Y, right now to the Civic Media app. And at the end of this hour, somebody is going to be chosen to go to this game this Sunday. Again, you have to be able to go to the game this Sunday, all right, at 1:10 p.m. against the Colorado Rockies. Brewers red hot right now. The Miz is the most famous guy and most sought after player in Major League Baseball right now, Zommers.
That's what I gather.
Yes, he is. So text the word play, P-L-A-Y, right now to the Civic Media app. At the end of this hour, somebody's going to be selected to go to that game this Sunday. So there we go. We got that in. So we got that going on the Civic Media app. Text the word play, P-L-A-Y, right now to win those. And there are four of them. There are 4 Brewer tickets, and they're in the beautiful club level seats. The great seats, air conditioned right behind you in the concourse, the private club area concourse, bathrooms right there, your own concession stand just for that nice little area. PLAY. Text it right now. I'm going to give away the tickets at the end of this hour. Come on back. We'll get more into what's worse as well. Renting or owning. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Or text us on the Civic Media app for that as well. Busy day on a Friday on the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Well, we got it.
Still going.
I wasn't here yesterday, or else I feel like I would have remembered.
We got it. We
and
got
a
it.
regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke
All right,
risk
I got
better
Ray
than
Pine's
warfarin.
thing.
And over
Forward to that.
97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3%
All
of
right, I just sent
Eliquis
you that.
patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Hi, Gordy Kopke here. When I first invited folks to my farm 40 years ago, I could never have dreamed that would become the area's largest greenhouse. With a focus on quality plants at reasonable prices and a special emphasis on customer service,
Cam.
we have
I'm not
received
reading
the
that one,
People's
Cam, but
Choice
it's
Award
funny.
as Madison area's best greenhouse. Located 2 miles east of Oregon in the beautiful town of Dunn,
I've given Cam
I
more
invite you out to
ammunition
see
by telling
why
him
we
about
are
the
not
Sonic
only
cards.
the area's
Oh, for goodness
largest
gracious
greenhouse,
sakes
but
alive.
also the best.
It's a party on the patio at the Lazy Oaf Lounge, and you're invited every Tuesday at 5:30. It's just Merle and a girl, and Thursdays on the
Merle and a
patio
girl.
feature
I like
singer-songwriter Shelly Faith. Music starts at 5:30. It's live music on the patio at the Lazy Oaf Lounge every Tuesday and Thursday. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road in
Thank you.
Madison.
$525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments, oh dear. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets,
The Todd Allbaugh Show on the
midnights,
Civic Media Radio Network. One of my favorite all-time Broadway shows and songs from Rent. There you go. Well done, Zommers. We're talking about rent, different kind of rent. What's better? What's worse, I should say? What's worse? Yes, Todd, that's the bit we've been doing for months. What's worse? Renting or owning? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Also, you can text us on the Civic Media app. It is a listener on WISS texting in saying if you own it, then you can rent it out. Just something to think about. Well, there you go. You buy something, you rent it yourself. Make a little money. Make your money back on that. That's a good one. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Dave in New Berlin says owning is worse because if it breaks down, it's somebody else's problem. All right. Very good. What else here? Robert in McFarland listening on MDX rather, pardon me. Robert says, so I rented a house once for 3 years and I really enjoyed living there. And now I've owned a house for almost 3 years and I really enjoy living here. So I don't have a strong opinion today on either way. All right. Very good. I've both owned a home, rented. I think for me, the biggest thing when you own, you're building equity of some sort. And I always feel when I rent like I am right now, that essentially it's a glorified hotel room.
You're not wrong.
I mean, like, once my money is, it's just gone there. So, also in the middle of our free Friday ticket giveaway up for grabs right now until 4 o'clock. We've got 4 tickets, club level seat tickets. These are the really nice ones. And the seats are right below the Skybox suites. So you're not quite in the suite, but the next best thing right below that is the club level. They're padded seats on the third base side. You can see right down into the Brewers dugout. Great view of the big scoreboard. And then behind you, you have air-conditioned concourse, your own private concessions and bathrooms. You can enter to win these tickets. You have to be able to go this Sunday at 1:10 p.m. against the Rockies. Text the word PLAY, P-L-A-Y, right now to the Civic Media app to be eligible. Download the Civic Media app, text the word PLAY, P-L-A-Y. At the end of this hour, the computer will randomly select one of those entries, and someone will be going free of charge, you and 3 of your friends, to the Brewers game on Sunday.
Guess what? Statewide contest.
Thank you. It's a statewide contest. Len in Madison says, what's worse, renting or owning? So many variables to consider. Cost difference, frequency of use, convenience, storage, maintenance, complexity, and there's always the pride of ownership. Yeah, all those are great points. Totally. I mean, you do get some pride, right? Owning something. Here's one for the attorneys. Dave in New Berlin says, how many times can I enter to win? Once an hour, isn't it?
Yeah, once per show.
Once per show. All
Right. So technically, you could have texted the word if we had told you during the first hour of today's show, and it would be either in the 2 and 3 p.m. hour, you get 1. But then if Maggie has a word in her show, you can enter then.
All right. So very good. So listen to Maggie's show after ours. I think they're going to have a word today as well. Yeah. So, and then, other shows, Kreitlow's show has it. Jane Matnair's show has it with Greg Bach every day or every Friday as well. I think they courier pigeon a word to Hartman, and he has a word as
something like that
to the Tom Hartman show, and then us, and then Maggie. So all these shows, you can listen to them every Friday, and you can enter once per show. So once per show. The word is play, P-L-A-Y, P-L-A-Y. Text us the word play, and you are eligible to win those Brewer tickets for Sunday. Tom in New Berlin, listening to WAUK, says renting certain tools. When I buy, I treat it like it's rented. All right, there you go. I've known people who are very meticulous about their tools, and they last forever. I mean, I worked for a guy who had a landscaping company one time, and every time he'd use like a shovel or anything to plant a tree, he would scrape it down and then wash it and then dry it and hang it back up. And his tools look, virtually new for years. He'd had it for 40 years. It looked like it was almost new.
That's the thing for me where owning is having to do maintenance is both an upside and a downside because you control how your stuff is treated so you can make it last, but also you have to take care of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean in Richland Center, listening on the great station, WRCE back home, says, if it's snowmobiles, owning is way worse. Bought a new snowmobile 2 years ago. Hasn't snowed since. Sean, that's so true. I know other people have said that.
Yeah.
It's snowmobiles are a bit like owning a boat. Kenny Chesney on his No Shoes Radio on Sirius XM always says, he's a big boat guy, Caribbean guy. The old adage is, the 2 best days when you own a boat are the day you buy it and the day you sell it.
I've always heard, never buy a boat. You want a friend with a boat. You never want to buy the boat.
Right, exactly. Exactly. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. If you want to weigh in, what's worse, renting or owning, Zommers?
It's tough because I think both have their places. Like, I would never want to rent an instrument, like a musical instrument. I don't want to rent someone else's trombone. I want to own a trombone or a drum set or whatever. But also and as far as a house, sure, it'd be cool to own a house someday. But right now, renting works better. So, I mean, I guess I'm glad they both exist. But I think renting, it is easier to get screwed over because either the thing doesn't work or you're paying too much money for it.
So your answer is?
Rent is worse.
It's a long ways to go and a short time to get there. I'll agree. Renting is worse. That is my opinion. I'd rather own. if I had a choice. But there are maybe occasions when renting is okay, but overall, renting is worse. All right, thanks for playing that. Keep texting in the word play, P-L-A-Y, for your chance to win those free Brewer tickets. Text them on the Civic Media app, P-L-A-Y. Text them right now to win tickets for Sunday. Back with Peter Rapine, week in review from E-Bomb's World after this. Stay with us.
Measure your life in love.
Madison's real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX. As Wisconsin is summer weekends being spent on the lake, this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin agriculture, and we always want to make sure we have plenty of it. I'm Ben Jarbo at the Midwest Farm Report, and Mike North, the principal with Everag, is here to give us the cheese inventory update.
Total cheese stocks came in at 1.413 billion pounds, and when you look at that, it might sound like a lot, but we're still down about 1.5% from last year. We are up about 0.6% from the.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
Doing well. Todd will be back. I think he just went to go to the bathroom.
Cool.
I'd ask about the vacation, but he's going to ask, so you're just going to have to say it twice if I do.
So. As far as videos go, let's start with New Region tourist allegedly denied entry into the U.S. over J.D. Vance Photoshop.
Okay.
Really good audio for that one. It's like someone in the Irish Parliament talking about it. So that's really funny. The couple forgetting to close the curtain before banging is an video from India. There's not like a lot of talking, but there's like a bunch of honking.
The one that I saw in the link just had people speaking some non-English language, but maybe there's a second video in the article. Let me take a look.
It's mostly that. There might be like some car noise in the background. But yeah, not a ton of solid audio, just the Parliament one. And the musical performance one. That one's really funny too.
Yes, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we probably can't use the audio on the traffic jam one just because I don't know what they're saying and I don't know if it is words we're not supposed to say.
Totally.
But I can at least put up the video for Todd to watch.
Okay.
And
yeah, it's funny.
describe.
You'll get a great reaction out of him. Oh, and then umpire cancels Little League game. That has great audio too. I think there might be. You might want to listen to that one. I forget if someone says that if they say shit. I'm not sure.
Give it a listen. Let's see.
I'm not sure if they do.
Or you could find it on your app
Peter
store.
Rapine,
Now let's
fresh
take a
off
look
the
and see
Lear
how
jet
the
back
dairy
from
markets
Europe.
turned out today.
Yeah.
When we take a look at classroom,
How's it going?
everything's on the rise.
I'm good. I'm kind of fighting a cold this week, but otherwise I'm great.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, post vacation, come down.
Oh, that happens though. You get you have a great time of vacation. Your body just like
I know. So if I start doing that, just fill in for me.
All right, that's fine. Yeah.
An incredible lineup of stuff today, though.
I cannot wait. I'm looking forward in nervous anticipation.
Yeah, did you see this news about the Norwegian tourist?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
Did you not?
We'll start with that. We'll start with that one.
All right, you'll see.
Yeah, you got to look at the photo too.
Yeah, I'll put the video up on the screen so you can see it.
Yeah, the photo is awesome.
I don't think I have seen this.
It's fantastic.
Allegedly denied.
Don't click the link yet.
All right.
Yeah,
into
yeah.
US over JD Vance Photoshop. I'm not.
It's pretty good.
So fun. It's hilarious.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we'll start with that.
All right.
And then we'll just take them down the line, I guess.
Very good.
There's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect
And the umpire one is good. I didn't catch any swearing in
Okay.
it.
Now start screening.
Cool.
For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit savebythescan.org. It could save your life. Savebythescan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
Indy Durgupta, he is with the Center for Law and Social Policy.
The Trump administration's agenda is reducing economic growth. The programs that they're proposing cutting, like Medicaid and SNAP, especially for kids, actually more than pay for themselves. So we are really looking at a tough long-term economic outlook entirely created by the current.
We have a big audience today on the stream because our friend Dan Schaefer, who has a big following,
Well, we got about 15 seconds.
was on earlier. So we got a big audience today, Peter.
Nice. Good.
There we go.
Guess who's back? Back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio number 35 now, past the hour of 3 o'clock. That's right, on a TGIF. Guess who's back? Back in the U.S., back again. You know him, you love him. He's the managing editor of ebombsworld.com. He joins us live from beautiful Brooklyn, New York via StreamYard. He's back in the U.S., our friend, our ongoing contributor, Mr. Peter Rapine. Peter, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, no trouble getting back into the country. Unlike some of the stories we're going to be talking about today.
I'm glad to see you made it back, because for those that don't know, we have a larger audience, I think, today, because our friend Dan Schaefer, who has a huge following, was kind enough to come on our program with serious breaking news at the top of the show regarding the state budget. By the way, the Joint Finance Committee is scheduled now to meet at 4 o'clock. Our news team is all over that. But Dan Schaefer brings along a bunch of viewing guests on the stream and otherwise. So lots of people, Peter, that might not know you. You come to us every other week, pardon me. eBaum's World, a great. You can find all these headlines at eBaum's World, EBAUMSWORLD.com, eBaumsworld.com. Now, Peter, you were we don't like to go too far into your private life, but you've been very open. You went on this big European vacation a couple of weeks ago. You went to Zurich, and obviously Customs and Border Patrol said you were worthy to come back home, and we're very happy about that.
Yeah, thankfully. They didn't look through my phone, unlike the first story on our lineup today, which I'm glad you have not seen the photo.
I have not.
All right, so
but before, for those, again, for first-time viewers, these are not fictional. These are not made-up things. These are actual stories of actual, real, idiotic, stupid human behavior that you all at eBaum's World curate and bring to us every other week as real headlines.
Yes, I always like to say we're funny, but we're not this funny. We truly live in a world that is stranger than fiction. And unlike the guy in our first story today, I was able to get back into the country. I'm really glad that you haven't seen this one yet, Todd. You're going to love it.
All right, first headline.
Headline reads, Norwegian tourist allegedly denied entry into U.S. over J.D. Vance Photoshop.
Norwegian tourist allegedly denied entry into the U.S. over a J.D. Vance Photoshop.
So if you don't remember, a couple months ago, people were photoshopping J.D. Vance into all sorts of memes. They were turning him into a baby. They were giving him long hair. They were making his cheeks nice, big, and rosy. And I should say, before we get into this, that the Department of Homeland Security came out and said that he wasn't denied entry into the country for the Photoshop specifically, but because he admitted to some drug use, which seems like not the type of reason you would stop someone coming into the country that wants to go on vacation.
I mean, if that was the case, Elon Musk wouldn't be able to come into the country anymore. But that's another story.
I'll describe the photo itself. It is a photo of J.D. Vance where his face has been made to look like a baby's face, and he has the biggest, rosiest cheeks imaginable and an incredibly smooth, bald head.
I'm looking at it now. It's spooky.
And the 21-year-old tourist, whose name is Mads Milkinson, not the Mads Milkinson that everyone knows, says he was harassed and interviewed by ICE for over a couple hours. And then once they saw this meme on his phone, they put him on a flight and sent him home. And we have some audio from the Ireland Parliament talking about this issue.
This is actually the Irish Parliament talking about this very issue. All right, here we go.
unthinkable in a Western democracy. This week, a young Norwegian tourist detained by ICE at Newark Airport and sent back to Oslo. Why? He had this meme on his phone, Minister, a meme depicting Vice President J.D. Vance as a baby. I mean, extraordinary, extraordinary. That a young person with this amusing meme on their phone depicting a public person, that this would be used as an excuse to detain him for 5 hours and then deport him back to Oslo. So, Minister, I welcome the Taoiseach's commitment to raise this serious issue with the US Ambassador. But as the line Minister for issuing visas, what can you do to reassure young people
I think
here?
you can probably cut it there. My favorite part is how she says, like a baby.
I know. I'm going to say, first of all, any Irish person, I could listen to them talk for hours and be entertained because I love an Irish accent.
So any travelers planning on coming to the U.S. this summer, just wipe your phone before you do.
I mean, it's one of those things, right, Peter, where it's funny, obvious, it's entertaining, but yet it's not, because here we have the U.S. government telling people they can't come into America because they have a comedic meme, a photo that's on making fun of an elected official. I mean, holy cow.
Also, the funniest part about it is everyone in Europe is now sharing that meme all over the place. It's in headlines, it's in the parliament, it's everywhere.
The video that came from obviously our viewers couldn't, our listeners couldn't see that member of parliament. She was in the the chamber of parliament holding up this goofy meme as a part of actual legislative debate in Ireland. It's bizarre.
I know. So if you're a small Instagram account out there and you like making Photoshops, keep going. You never know when you're in Photoshop is going to make the news.
And not to get too serious, because I know this is usually a lighthearted bit, but did you honestly, like you run eBaum's World, did you have any consternation when you just sweat a little bit standing in the line at customs coming back into the U.S.?
No, not really.
That's what I love about Peter Rapine. He just doesn't give a crap.
I mean, there's if that's the barrier for entry, I'm not getting back in if they look into my phone. So I'm done.
I love Peter Rapine so much. All right, that was great. That was a great way to kick things off. Next headline, Peter Rapine.
All right, this one is just plainly funny. No politics involved. Couple, and this video is coming to us from India. Couple forgets to close curtains before banging, causes huge traffic jam.
A couple forgets to close the curtains before banging, causing a huge traffic jam.
And we have audio for it, but it's not the best because you can't, for one, understand what they're saying, and two, it's just basically a lot of cars honking. But yeah, according to India Today, it resulted in a giant gathering outside of this person's apartment, blocking the street, because you can just see this couple, the silhouette of a man and a woman together in a window, having some private alone time.
Is playing it's in the Holiday Inn. It was in a Holiday Inn apparently, and they left their windows open, and they're doing the act. We'll leave it at that, right in front of their window, and it's very clear what's happening, and people are gathered around. It's like a live show.
A good free live show.
If there's a cafe across the street, dinner and a show.
My favorite part of it is that in the video you can see there's people in the room above them in the Holiday Inn. Their curtains are open, and they're standing at the window, so they know something's going on, even though you probably can't see down.
That was magical. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Apparently, they like to be watched.
Clearly they do not care.
Was there? You just got back from Europe. Is there a more of a freedom of expression over there when it comes to that sort of thing, Peter?
Well, I was in Berlin, so yes, there is.
Really?
Yeah. Next.
The look on Peter's face is priceless. Next, he says. Next.
Next headline. This one it's one that we don't want to laugh at, but sometimes you can't help but laugh. Utah firefighters scolded for having a barbecue at the scene of a deadly fire.
What? Utah firefighters scolded for having a barbecue at a scene of a deadly fire. This is not look particularly entertaining, but what's going on?
So the niece of a man who sadly perished in a fire was sent a photo of a bunch of firemen parked out front of her uncle's house with a Traeger barbecue, some lawn chairs, and they were just cooking up a bunch of brats. And she felt that this was pretty insensitive, and so she went to her local news station and put the firefighters on blast. And a representative for the fire department came out and said, well, they'd been at the fire for several hours and they needed to eat. And my rebuttal to that is, couldn't they just have ordered DoorDash?
Yeah. Or like had someone, like, whether it's DoorDash or what, that Steve, I've seen the photo. I get it that I don't know if this is a paid fire department or volunteer fire department, but to set up, they have actual, like, a legit big grill right out inside of front of this house where someone died. Tact, not really obviously a part of this department.
No. Yeah.
No,
yeah, maybe
not
go down the
good at all.
street or yeah.
Yeah. No, I would say very tasteless on their part. To your point, order DoorDash. It ain't that hard.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
Yeah. And out in Utah, the only problem with DoorDash in Utah, no coffee. That's
Really?
a whole that's a whole nother couple. Anyway, go ahead, Peter. Next headline.
Next headline. Musical performance ruined by one wrong soundboard hit.
Musical performance ruined by one wrong soundboard hit. Explain.
So this comes to us from the Rhode Island Center for the Performing Arts, and their caption on TikTok reads, "Our audio engineer will not be using this soundboard again." And we have audio for it, and it is way funnier than you're expecting.
All right, so set it up for us. This is from a performance. What are we listening to here?
I think it's a holiday performance, so this one might actually be a month or two old. But in the middle of the performance, the audio engineer is supposed to play a sound effect for the performance, and he plays the wrong sound effect.
All right, here we go. The performers and singers are clearly losing their composure on the stage. That was the wrong sound effect.
Can we hear it one more time? I'm really not sure what the sound effect is supposed to be.
I'm not either. I mean, what is it? I mean, it's like a Christmas performance or something, or maybe not. I don't know. It kind of looks like that. I'm not
It
sure.
sounds like a...
Doink, doink, doink.
Oh, there's a
Are
fourth one.
those-
It's like bump, 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 bump.
Yeah, are those fart sounds?
I don't know if it's that or like a bouncy sound.
Or like a gong? Yeah.
Individually, it sounds pretty farty to me, but having the four rhythmically like that is very suspect.
Clearly the wrong sound effect for what looks to be a serious part of whatever the show. I don't recognize the show, but
Well, I can say, as in college, I interned at a theater and I ran the light board for their summer show. And I can tell you that this is the worst nightmare for someone managing a production.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But funny for
person
us.
running the soundboard, and I'm sure they will not be invited back. We're talking with Peter Rapine, managing editor of EPOM's World, his bi-weekly visit on weird, wacky things, the week in review. Less than a minute left. You want to wait to come back?
Yeah, let's wait.
All right. Can we ask Peter, are you and the girlfriend still together?
We are. I'm going to be in... Yeah, it went great. I'm going to Vancouver in a couple weeks. Going to spend the summer on the West Coast.
Some people were concerned that maybe too much time together in Europe. Well, it didn't work out, but no, it seemed to solidify things.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Particularly in Berlin. Anyway, we'll come back on the other side with Peter Rapine and the weird and wacky of human behaviors. The Week in Review is the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Ham in Appleton says, Todd tried to scope out places to move to. Yes, I'll be spending a lot of time in Berlin.
Well, since we're not on air right now,
We're on over the air. We're on the stream, so people watching the stream can hear you, but not over the air. Yeah.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, Berlin's notorious for anything kind of goes in nightclubs. So depending on where you are and how freaky it is, the stories are endless. Think of anything happening, and it might have happened already.
Neil Patrick Harris years ago, when he was guest hosting on Live with Regis and Kelly, I think it was, he told a story that's really like where he discovered or came to terms with his own sexuality or whatever, because he went to these Berlin nightclubs and just
did what you do.
As they say, it was going both ways. So a good time was had by all.
Yeah, there's a pretty famous person who hangs out in one club he hangs out in a bathroom with an empty cup, and you can just fill in the rest.
Lord. It's Berlin.
It's Berlin, yeah. But you can drink beer anywhere in Berlin. On the train, in public, you can just walk around. It's fantastic. You can walk on the train at 10 a.m. with beer in your hand. No one will bat an eye.
Those Germans, they got it down.
They
Even
got
better
it
than
down.
Wisconsin.
They do.
Do you know Wisconsin and Texas are the only two states in America where a person can drink at any age as long as you're with your parents?
I didn't know that.
15, having a beer as long as you're with your parents.
Like at a bar? Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, sick. Do you guys see many 15-year-olds at bars then?
Not 15,
Not really,
but
no.
I used to run the, I've told the story. I used to be a general manager at Tilted Kilt. And we had I would say 18, 19-year-olds coming with their parents.
I feel like more common is if you're at a restaurant.
Yeah.
It'll be like, sure, we can get Jimmy a beer with dinner rather than bars.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We never would have a bunch or anything, but if they want a beer or a glass of wine, whatever.
That's the right way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's just, you make it more normal.
Mm-hmm.
My sister watching says in Wisconsin, the drinking is up to each establishment. I've been told by Addison. Well, yes, that is actually true as well. It's state law that if you're with your parents, but the establishment does have the right, if they so choose, to refuse.
Okay.
30 seconds.
That makes sense.
We never did. No, I don't know. We didn't. I think maybe 2 or 3 times ever happened.
You didn't have cause to refuse.
We didn't have cause.
Not you chose
we
not to.
We didn't have cause. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is 8 minutes before the hour of 4 o'clock. At the top of the hour, ABC, CBS, or James Kelly News, depending upon which of our great stations you're listening to, followed by a check of weather with a great weather team, and then Mike Clemens, a great sports reporter, in with an update. The Brewers getting underway tonight. A series at home against Colorado. Text the word play, P-L-A-Y, right now to the Civic Media app. You have the next 8 minutes until 4 o'clock. At the top of the hour, the computer will randomly choose an entry, and the winner will get 4 tickets for this Sunday's game against those Colorado Rockies starting at 1:10. You have to be able to go to that game. You cannot not exchange it for another one. So text the word play, P-L-A-Y, right now to enter on the Civic Media app. All right, and then after that, Maggie Dawn, I believe Jim Santel is in for Maggie today. Right now, we have Peter Rapine, managing editor of eBombsWorld.com, in with news of the weird, wild, and wacky real human behavior in our week in review, our bi-weekly chat with him. eBombsWorld.com is where you can find all these stories. Peter Rapine, next headline.
Well, that was a great setup because this next one is a baseball story.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Not from the major leagues, but from the minor leagues, or not even the minor leagues, the little leagues, where if you've ever been to a little league game, sometimes parents can get a little bit too involved.
Yes.
And one umpire was not having it. So headline reads, Umpire cancels Little League game after parents heckle him too much.
Umpire cancels Little League game after parents heckle him too much. I don't even know what the story is, but already, based on the headline alone, I love it. Go ahead.
Well, a small aside, when I was like 13, 14, I trained to be an umpire. And I went out and I not like an umpire, but like a first base coach or whatever it was. Yeah. And I went and I did one game, and it was the worst experience of my life, and I quit.
Really?
Because my dad was like, I can't believe you signed up to that. To do that, parents are insane. So I've lived this, but we have audio of it, which is going to do it more justice than I can do it. So,
all right, very good. And so this is at a Little League game. This is a Little League game, and parents getting on an ump. Here we go.
Want to know what I just told him? If you don't,
we already heard you.
I'm going to forfeit the team.
We're
So
done.
shut up
We're
when the
done.
game's
Okay.
over.
The game's over.
Focus.
Oh boy, huh? Feel better?
I feel fine. You feel okay?
I feel
great.
great.
The game for your kid. For what?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you want to argue balls and strikes in a little
We
league
didn't
game?
argue balls and strikes. He walked up like a man to you.
Good for that. And that the umpire, I'm going to guess he's in his mid to late 20s at most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he looks like he's in college.
Yeah. He's probably early 20s, maybe mid 20s. But he's out there umping a game for a Little League game, and these idiotic parents are getting on him so bad, he gives them a warning, and clearly one of them said something back, maybe it was off the audio, and he said, that's it, forfeited, done. And the parents still got on him. What the heck is wrong with people, Peter?
I mean, imagine arguing balls and strikes when your kid is like 9 years old.
Well, it's because too many of these Yahoo parents, in my opinion, think they have, the next Jacob Wizarowski, the big phenom right now for the Brewers. Everybody thinks their kid's going to end up in a professional sport and they're going to get rich. And guess what? You don't.
It's not going to happen. Yeah, the likelihood that you're going to make the MLB is like zero, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just chill out, parents.
Chill out, parents. But he handled it well.
Umpire.
Yeah,
he did handle it. He didn't swear. He just laid down the law and said, that's it. I admire him. I really do. That's
and
great.
he goes
That's
like,
great.
it's a game for your kids. Like, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, next headline.
All right. This might be one of my favorites of the week. Beekeeper tries to get out of traffic stop by unleashing swarm of bees.
Beekeeper tries to get out of a traffic stop by unleashing a swarm of bees. All right, go ahead.
So this is probably taking a small infraction and escalating it as far as it can go, because a man in Spain who was a beekeeper and was driving around with a car full of bees got pulled over for not wearing a seatbelt and driving erratically. And instead of complying with the officers, he got out and opened his trunk, and out came, I assume, 50,000 bees.
Good gosh. So he just gets ticked off and he lets his bees go.
Yeah, but it didn't end well for him, because he did get arrested. And he probably lost all of his bees. So drive with your seatbelt on.
My youngest niece is in Spain right now. So
really?
So she better be careful about these beekeepers over there. That's great. Yeah. Do not try this at home, folks. If you're a beekeeper, don't stick your bees on the cops. All right, I got a final one here, Peter.
Yep, short and sweet. It's a sign of the times. UCLA students flex using ChatGPT during grad ceremony.
UCLA students flexes using ChatGPT during grad ceremony. Explain, Peter Rapine.
So a student graduating recently at UCLA was put on the Jumbotron, and he quickly pulled out his laptop, swiped right a couple times to his page of ChatGPT, and scrolled up and down over what appears to be an essay that he is insinuating ChatGPT wrote for him, which I assume helped him graduate and get his degree. And the crowd sadly goes nuts. And as soon as the camera operator realizes what's happening, they cut away from him. And the look on his face, the smile on his face, the things he's doing with his hands, it just puts a big black hole in my heart. It makes me so sad.
He was not that bright. Maybe he
No.
doesn't. Maybe he doesn't deserve the diploma after all.
Well, clearly not. Clearly
Who
not.
does that? Yeah, this is how I got through college. ChatGPT, look at me.
Well, sadly, it seems like most kids are doing that these days.
You know who doesn't? You know who doesn't use AI? Peter Rapine and his
We
staff
don't.
at EPOM's World.
We
You
don't.
can find all these headlines at EPOM's World. Real writers, real journalists with real headlines. Peter, we appreciate it. Welcome back to the USA. Glad you have a great trip. Always a pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks,
Peter
Aaron.
Rapine, everybody. Talk to you soon. Many thanks to Dan Schaefer. Many thanks to Shali Pittman, Matt Flynn. We'll stay on top of what's happening at JFC. Jim Santel is next. Until next Monday, whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. We'll see you on Monday. Thanks to Zommers as well. Have a great weekend.
Well, adios, everyone.
All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.